Do, do, do. Josh Review! Yeah! Hello everyone, welcome to another album review with me, Joshua Smith, and today we're going to be looking at the album Tidal by Meghan Trainor. This album came out January 9th of this year, 2015. It peaked at number 1 on the US Billboard 200. It was released on the label Epic, and the singles so far are All About That Bass and Lips Are Movin', and I'm guessing we can expect some more singles in due time, but for now those are the only two. But without further ado, let's get this started. So, Meghan Trainor is a relatively new artist who had just sprouted up last year. When her hit song All About That Bass dropped, it was at the top for like 8 weeks or so. It was a major hit, and it got near constant radio airplay. Lately, Meghan has proven herself to be a force to be reckoned with, but how is her first LP? Let's find that out right now. Now, Tidal is a unique album in that its main genre, besides pop, is something that draws back to like 50s bubblegum pop and girl group soul music. If you've seen my review of All About That Bass, you know exactly how I feel about the style and of that song, but as to be expected, the style stays mostly consistent throughout this entire album, which is something to be admired, as a matter of fact. But what are the themes, you may ask? Putting it simply, the themes of this album are a combination of love, heartbreak, self-empowerment, self-indulgence, sexual drive, sexual superiority, and above all, making yourself feel beautiful and one with yourself. It's not rocket science, as a lot of albums from female artists deal with these subjects, but what Meghan does with these themes is she adds her own unique style to them, making them feel rather fresh. A lot of this album feels somewhat all over the place, but the common theme stays put no matter how you spin it. And what's really interesting is how the entire album, even though it's called Tidal, seems to revolve around All About That Bass, and as it makes reference to the bass, which is actually her butt, of course, several times throughout this album. And the factor only exemplifies her sexual desires, and those sexual desires are made quite prevalent in a track like Bang Them Sticks. Even the title gives off vibes of sexual innuendo, and that's another thing I like to talk about, the innuendos. The innuendos aren't really clever at all, they're actually quite obvious, like check this out. I love when it's loud, I love when it's big, you can feel it in the crowd, come on, bang them sticks. See what I'm getting at here? Don't you think for 1 second that this album doesn't keep with that theme of sexual needs, be it positive or negative. In a track like 3 AM, which talks about drinking the sadness of a breakup away, she talks about needing someone to sleep with at night. You can kind of connect the dots there. And that also brings me to something else that seems common in this album. Her drinking problem. Again, in 3 AM, she talks about how she knows it's wrong, and she also talks about it a lot in Walk of Shame. That's basically the point of the song. But she accepts the fact that she needs alcohol and sex to get over her feelings, possibly hinting that she's an alcoholic. She talks about how she's young, perhaps making herself feel better by saying that everybody knows how she feels. Now, on to the whole idea of self-empowerment, she makes her demands quite clear in Dear Future Husband, which comes right after All About That Bass, and All About That Bass is the second track on the album, technically the first full track on the album, so right from the get-go she's telling you that she's not the kind of girl you want to mess around with. Here's a short list of things she wants from a man. Take her on dates. Buy her flowers every anniversary. Treat her like a lady. Accept that she's crazy. Tell her she's beautiful every night. And admit to being wrong after a fight and apologize even if you're right and she's wrong. Truly the pinnacle of female society. That's not even really a joke, though. Throughout this album, she expresses the feelings of a lot of young women searching for love over nice, retro beats. But a lot of it feels like she's telling you to do all of this just to get sex in return. Does that actually make her a slut and a tease? Well, maybe, considering things that she says in another track, My Selfish Heart. In My Selfish Heart, a pure doo-wop track, she kind of comes off as a tease saying that she really enjoyed his company, yet she's cutting him loose, saying that even though he was the best she's ever had, he deserves better than her, even going as far as to say that he can call her up at any time. However, throughout this album, she's talking about the exact opposite, in that she doesn't want a guy to leave her. The highlight of this album is definitely No Good For You, and that's mainly for its style. It stands out as a unique track in that it actually doesn't utilize the doo-wop style, but more of a Caribbean island soca style. The lyrics are really nothing to sneer about, and something that kind of disappointed me about this track is that the entire time she's telling her friend that her new boyfriend isn't any good for her, and that she's mad that she's spending all of her time with him. However, it's not until the very end that we find out why Meghan has such disdain for her friend's new man. This guy asked Meghan out on a date, meaning that he cheated on her friend. Why not spend more time on the track, like, talking about why this guy is so bad, instead of talking about how he may seem great but he's not, and wait until the very end to tell us exactly why he's so bad. Overall, this album was actually quite enjoyable. It was definitely different and shows a great appreciation for retro music, which is something that I can definitely appreciate. Meghan shows that she not only has a nice singing voice, but also some rapping skills, albeit it's nothing really special. Some of the more endearing moments on this album, such as What If I, and her duet with John Legend, like I'm Gonna Lose You, are some of the more highlighted moments on this album, as it does show a more poignant and loving side of Meghan that's not really, expertly shown on the rest of the album. The majority of this album is spent talking about how she's been trying to drink off bad relationships, and how she can basically toss her bass, if you know what I mean, around as a means of getting what she wants from a man. This album, in essence, is a love letter to young girls who want to be, the one that wears the pants in a relationship, and to not just be a piece of meat for a man, but to demand respect and various forms of endearment from that man. Is it a feminist statement? Not really, but does it drive home a message of female empowerment? Absolutely. As someone who's been with girls of all kinds, I can tell you how heavy that weight, or in this case, that bass, can be. Anyways, thank you for joining me on this another review. If you want to see, an album or a song reviewed that you like or may suggest, just leave a comment down below, and I'll get to it as soon as I possibly can. But again, thank you for watching, and so long.